anything that rocks. 97.7 QLZ.
Sitting here on the bus with, of course, we got Brent and Eric of the band Shinedown. Thank you guys for the time here in St. Louis at the Pageant. And we're just going to kick things off here. I mean, a couple months ago, back in May, you guys were out on the road in Europe with Iron Maiden as both, fans of music and musicians. How was that for you guys?
It was amazing, actually. It was for us as a band, it was one of those things where to get that kind of an opportunity, we didn't take it lightly. But they were really great to us, and they were very gracious. They gave us 50 minutes. We spent 44 days with them. We started in Antwerp and then did 5 shows in Germany, and then the bulk of the tour was in the UK. Every single night. One of the coolest things was the fact that when we went on stage, we had an idea that we would probably have maybe half of the arena would be there by like the 5th or 6th song in our set, and maybe we get, the place would be half full. So that wasn't the case. It was full up from the downbeat of our first song. So like if you open up for Maiden, those fans are so extraordinary that they show up, because if Maiden wants you on their tour, their audience is going to show up early for you, and that was the case. So they put us in front of that whole duration of that tour, about 500,000 people, and throughout the whole every city that we played. And they were really, really humble, and their crew was great to us also. Barry grew up on Maiden. He was probably the one in the band that was the most in awe of it all. He actually flew his dad and his brother. He surprised him to the last 2 shows in London '02 and brought him over, and that was really, really cool for him. But they were great.
What was it like playing the O2 Arena? Because everyone talks about how legendary that arena is.
It's large, man, but absolutely just a wonderful experience. I mean, for me, it was the only arena that I walked out into prior to the show. Normally, I just sit backstage and just walk out there at showtime, but it really had to get out there and kind of take it in and look around, because it's you don't really grasp the enormity of that place unless there's nobody in it, and you're just standing out in the middle of the floor looking around. So, but our fans in the UK also came out and represented too, which was awesome. We, to be in the middle of a sea of Iron Maiden shirts, but to see Shinedown shirts mixed in was really great too. So.
And that was going to be my next question, because, you guys have been over in the UK several times now over the course of the last couple of years. What is the difference in the fan bases between the US and the UK for you as a group?
I mean, I think that I will always say this. I think that UK fans, European fans, tend to be more listening crowds. I mean, as far as, just really, really taking in every single note that you're playing, more so than crowds in America. Crowds in America are great, and they love rock and roll. It's a little bit more of a party atmosphere, I think, at a show in the States than it is, over in Europe and the UK, except for maybe Glasgow and up in Scotland and maybe Wales or something. I mean, they get a little rowdy, but the other great thing about there too is there's no real shelf life on your career. We don't feel like over there. It doesn't seem that way anyway. It's like once they latch onto you as a band, they're going to be there forever,
Absolutely, I agree with him.
Okay, looked like you were going to say something else and add to it.
I mean, the only thing that I can add to it, honestly, is the fact that, just going back to the UK, we played Download on the main stage last year for the very first time, and that was in front of about 80,000 people. And subsequently, that's why we got the Maiden tour in the first place, because Steve Harris watched our last 6 songs and said, "You guys want to open up for us next year?" And we said, "Yeah."
Well, you guys are out on this run right now through the end of August. What's going to be going on for you after that?
We started the 6th Shinedown record the middle of January. We entered the process of writing in the studio. And for us right now, we're going to finish this run that we're doing. And then we're actually going back to the studio. And then we've got a couple of shows to take care of in August. We finish up on August 9th. And then we're in Los Angeles for pretty much the rest of August. And then we got 3 more shows to take care of. We're in Los Angeles recording. And then we take care of 3 shows in September. And then enter the studio again. And right now we're working in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
I don't really know where to go with that. Yeah, I mean, we're in the...
You're the man.
We are. We're in the midst of writing. And this is the first time we've ever tried to write, tour, and record all simultaneously. So right now we've written, 13 songs, 14 songs?
17 altogether.
Okay, 17 songs altogether, of which we feel really strongly about a handful of them that we feel certain that we like that will be either on the record or really close to it. So we're going to get in and start tracking those while at the same time continuing to write other songs for the record. So it's been really interesting. And
Tell them what you're going to do differently on this record. Tell them what you're doing.
Apparently, you're doing something different.
He's doing something like different on this entire record. He's stepping out.
Oh, yeah, I'm producing the Shinedown record. So.
Okay. Well,
up until this point, I've only produced tracks for Shinedown.
Okay.
So Diamond Eyes, Cut the Cord, I'm Alive on the Avengers soundtrack, things like that. But yeah, stepping up and doing the whole thing and produce the whole record. So, but that's actually a lot of fun for me because normally I'm not a proponent of band members, self-produced bands and that sort of thing. But I think this band has a different mentality and a different approach to things. I mean, we're not, most bands are looking to self-produce so they can become a spaceship and fly off somewhere and do whatever it is they do. And for us, it's always about the songs and the fans and just really trying to deliver great songs. So that's never going to go away, never going to change. I just feel like right now I've got a real bead on what this band is and the kind of record we need to make.
All right.
So
well, looking ahead, not even looking ahead, but looking back, "State of My Head." It's a very urban and kind of a pop-built song around a drum beat, and just kind of looking at that type of song, sonically speaking, a little bit different for you guys. Do you kind of see the band expanding what you guys do in terms of music and the way you write, and kind of looking to expand the sound of the band a little bit? There was a lot of that in this past record. Do you see that happening more moving forward?
We're always looking to do that, though. I think every time that we touch an instrument or start writing down lyrics or whatever, it's always about not trying to repeat ourselves, trying to do something different. State of My Head was definitely one of those moments. But, I'm not sitting around going, we need to write a State of My Head song. We need to keep going in this direction. It's honestly, I have to say, it sometimes feels like it's just, what side of the bed do we wake up on today? When we start something new, what do we feel like? Brent?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that it's we're about 90% sure that it's going to be a concept record. That's a very, very deep rabbit hole to go down, but I think we're ready to do it. The band's never done this before, and taking in that type of an atmosphere sonically is really taking an audience on a journey. We've always talked about our records being like a roller coaster, but this is a little bit more intense because there's a lot more themes involved, and there's a storyline to be built, and there's also actual characters. So that in and of itself kind of puts us in a really cool spot because it allows us to be very creative. But in the same breath, we're not going to go in there and, like Eric said so elegantly, we're not going to turn into a spaceship. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to go in there and tinker with sounds and be, looking at things, because it really does come down to the songs. But I will say this too, I don't feel like, just because we work with a lot of producers and we work with a lot of engineers and we know a lot of producers and we know a lot of engineers, I personally don't think that anyone else could produce this next Shinedown record but Eric. And there's a lot of reasons why. Not only are we're writing the songs together, and the band is as well, but we're going into it, and there's a bit more of a trust factor involved between Barry and Zach and myself when it comes to Eric, because, like he said, he produced Diamond Eyes, he produced Cut the Cord, he produced I'm Alive. We've written tons of songs together. He knows exactly what he's doing, and we're with each other 24/7 practically. And it was just time. We're just, he's ready to do it, and he's excited about doing it, and we're excited about the process of it being us four. Of course, we'll work with a couple of engineers here and there, but I mean, in a lot of ways, man, it's something that we get to do together, and it allows us to really, really focus on the sound of Shinedown and make sure that we're writing the most incredible material that we can come up with.
Well, I'm excited to see where the storyline's going to take us. Do you guys have a timeline? Have you put a timeline on yourselves yet as to when you're going to have this done and when it's going to be out?
I've got a timeline for when just in my head. I mean, as far as being done in the can with our side of it and turning it over to the label for them to do what they do, I would hope by Thanksgiving, we would be mixed and mastered, at least draft 1 mastered anyway.
It'll be finished by the holidays, by December.
Okay.
We'll have the first single out by January of next year. The record should drop in April.
All right. Well, speaking of next year is actually the 10th anniversary of Sound of Madness.
Get out of here.
10 years. That's such a pivotal album for you guys. And, Brent, me and you go back all the way back to the first record. And over the years, you and I have talked, but you've never been one to...
By the way, you still look as handsome as the day I met you.
I wouldn't go
I'm
that
just
far.
going to go ahead and throw it out there.
But you know what? Over the years, you've never been one to really talk and go back and celebrate a whole lot about the past records. But do you think you guys will do anything to celebrate the 10 years of that record? I mean...
I think it'll honestly depend on if it's right for us and we want to do something in regards to possibly with the new album, in regards to touring. If we want to do, I know kind of what you're getting at. A lot of bands will, with a 10th anniversary, they'll play the whole record and things like that. It definitely was a landmark record for us. It changed the scope of a lot of the playing field for this band. We're very respectful of that album. But we don't have anything off the top of our head right now. I kind of look at 10 years as that's a milestone, but I also look at what U2's doing right now, and that's 30 years for the Joshua Tree. So there's a lot of, maybe 20 years, for Madness. We might do something like that because honestly, man, we're really, really into this next record, and we're very, very proud of the catalog that we have. The other day, it was interesting, the fact that we have 25 singles that we've released as a band. And to remember certain people that were in this business and in this industry from 20 years ago that are still here and a lot that aren't. We still every day never take it for granted that we are allowed to do what we love to do. I mean, the audience has always allowed us to be ourselves. So that in and of itself, we want to make sure that we are always coming up as far as new music is concerned. We are always breaking another glass ceiling. So I think we're really focused on this 6th album, and we really want to turn some heads with this next record all across the world.
All right. Well, I got 2 more things to wrap up on. You mentioned 20 years. Well, I read somewhere that you had mentioned, I think in an interview, that next year is the 20th anniversary of you guys signing to Atlantic Records. How does that make you feel?
Lucky. To be honest with you, lucky that Atlantic Records is the record label that they are, lucky that Atlantic Records has let us be artists, lucky that Atlantic Records has 100% always been about the songs as well, and if anything, Atlantic Records has taught us that with Ahmet Ertegun and the legacy that he, built. It's for us, once again, we don't take that for granted, and we're rock and roll to the bone on a lot of levels, and you can't get much more rock and roll than Atlantic Records.
All right, last question. Looking back at the time that you guys have had, out of everything you've accomplished, is there anything for both of you that you haven't done yet that you still want to do?
I'm not going to skydive, so. And Eric's done that.
Are we just talking career-wise?
Career-wise, yeah.
God, man.
Play Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah, there are a lot of venues and things that of course any artist would want to do, and we have aspirations just like anybody else. I always said I always want to be trying to be the biggest band in the world.
Just before we get to this interview, you're talking about flying on Kiss's plane and hanging out with them.
Flew on Kiss's plane. I flew with the Thunderbirds. I flew in an F-16. That was one of my bucket list things. That was good. But that's kind of all of these things are icing on the cake. And I don't mean to sound cliche, but it's very, very true that every single night, man, you get to get on stage when you're on tour and do what you wanted to do, and do what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old. And I get to do it every day. And then when I'm not doing it out here, I get to walk into a mad scientist laboratory studio and create art for a living, and that's I don't know. I don't want to be all mushy about it, but that's just, I can't imagine.
You can be mushy.
I can't imagine anything better than that. And so, I guess my biggest aspiration is just to be able to continue to do that.
My biggest thing is to watch my son turn into a teenager and have him out here on the road with us, and show him, what it's like. Slave labor. Son, you're going to need to go to work.
See that guitar case? It ain't gonna move itself.
Yeah, it ain't going to move itself.
How old is he now?
He's gonna be 10 in December,
Wow.
and but it's funny too, man, because he has no desire whatsoever to do anything musical. He's all like basketball all the time, and he just met like one of his favorite people in the world, and it was random the other day. He loves Shaquille O'Neal, and he happened to be at a restaurant in I think they were up in Daytona, and he just happened to be in the parking lot, and his mom went over to him and was like, "Would you take a picture with my son?" And he was like, "Absolutely." So he got to meet Shaquille O'Neal, and it's the sweetest picture in the world. But he's all about Steph Curry and that whole thing. But for me, man, if I'm not in a studio, I'm on the road with these gentlemen, and it's one of those things for balance for me. So the biggest thing for me is making sure that my son is with me as he gets older, as much as he wants to be with me, and he can come and not be in school and understand that I love him more than anything in the world, and he's growing up right now and he's young, but once he gets into the teenage years, I definitely hope that in the summers and things like that I can bring him out here and show him what his dad does.
Brent and Eric, thank you guys so much for the time.
Thanks a lot.
Rock and roll! 97.7 QLZ.